Welcome back, everybody, to now the YouTube channel. I read, you read. We took some steps forward. Now I'm on a new platform, so it's still the same hot coffee. Wow. Now, first off, look, before I get into this episode, and I'm very excited to review this book, definitely wanted to say to those of you who have been supporting, who have been watching, and engaging with the content on my Instagram, and I very much appreciate it. It keeps me, it keeps me wanting to do this more. And so for those of you who have been supporting, who have been watching, just know that I thank you very much, for that level of engagement. I never thought that this would go any further than me just putting these up just so I could remember the books I read. Because I feel like we sometimes forget the stories we're a part of. And so through this, I kind of found a little bit of a community, a little bit of a club, and I want to grow that. I want to continue to see where this unfolds and where this goes. So thank you for being a part of the journey thus far, and I'm excited to see where this goes from here, 2021. And to launch it all off, DUNE by Frank Herbert. Wow. It's okay. Now, when I say it's okay, it's definitely like it's great, okay? It's just, for what it is, for the film that came out in the 80s or the late 70s, I have no idea. With all the hype, like around a good Stephen King novel, I definitely expected a little bit more. So, but I'm definitely going to critique this book. I want to talk about its downfalls, where in the story, where the characters, in my opinion, their story arcs lacklustered any sort of meat. But I also kind of want to talk about what makes this book so interesting and why I think that first of all, the movie was made, and what made it so incredible. And but I might have a little bit more of a critique than I do a celebration of this book. But then again, I've only read the first one. I think there's 6. Maybe I've got 5 more to go, and I will be reading those before the Timothy Chalamet Before that movie comes out, I want to make sure I read all these books. I really want to know how they're going to make this movie as big as it can be, especially with this book with not a lot happening in it. So now I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just dive into the synopsis. I'll give you a little preview. I'll cut a little trailer, and then we can talk about it. So with that being said, DUNE. Set upon the desert planet Arrakis, a dangerous yet fruitful setting for the spice, the most valuable drug in the universe that extends life and enhances mental capabilities. But this planet's glory is halted by the prospect of the Makers, giant sandworms that are easily summoned by those untrained of the ways of the desert.
Go, go, go!
When the Paddish Emperor assigns Arrakis to House Atreides, a treacherous plot unfolds at the hands of House Harkonnen. But what the Emperor had not planned was to meet the destiny of Paul, son of Duke Leto and Lady Jessica. Trained in the ways of the Bene Gesserit by his mother, Paul embarks on a journey to enact his revenge on the Emperor and restore his rightful place in the Landsrat, but not without the help of the Freemen, a disregarded race of Iraqi people that live within the inhospitable dunes of the Wasteland. As legend unfolds, Paul will step into his destiny, and the prophecy suspected of him might just ring true. I did my best when writing, the synopsis, not to give away too much, because, in this book's brief synopsis, it doesn't mention a lot of his mother, a lot of the powers within this universe of DUNE. There's not there's not a lot mentioned of the Bene Gesserit ways, and so I'm really walking a tightrope here of how much I want to provide in information. In this, they talk mainly about the setting, and that's really the draw to this story. It's, you know, how cool is it that these giant worms come out of the sand and eat up and destroy everything in its path, and the spice is what brings people there, and mining it is a risk in itself. And so that's the draw to this book. But what holds you, in my opinion, is this religious, this spiritual, tribal aspect of prophecy, of legend. And that's, I think, what made me stay. I wanted to know where that was going. And obviously we follow the main character, Paul, and his journey into this prophecy. And so, you know, I'm trying really hard not to give too much away, but that's where this book thrives. It's within this incredible tale of power and greed. The book is great. I definitely enjoyed it. But where I think it was lacking, like I said, was this character meat, this character arc of where things were headed, of where things were going, and where things have been. I think that's the biggest thing. Where were we before we got to this moment? And I don't mean that before the book started. I'm talking about going from one chapter to the next, flipping from one character to another, and when we get back to a character we hadn't read about, we were 10 weeks in the future. And what happened in those 10 weeks is briefly mentioned but not really talked about. You know, without giving out too much information, you know, Paul, somewhere in the book, he has gone through so much. Let's just say a certain group of people have learned so much, have learned from Paul, have learned about different ways of living, of fighting, of this and that, and all this training to a new moment in the book that we've been waiting for. Briefly mentioned, went over, and never dug in on, never had a chapter of itself, of these moments of preparation. And I think that's where story, the drama, the anticipation really builds. And that, I never felt within the book that anticipation was grabbing me and pulling me along to the next page. This book, Frank really dug in on the religious aspect of this book, the prophecy of what the rest of the 5 books, in my opinion, were going to be about. All right. So the first book is building this prophecy, not really talking much about this intergalactic political feud of fiefs. No, it's talking about the people of Arrakis. It's talking about where their hopes and dreams lie. It's talking about what their legends are and how Paul fits into the grand scheme of things. And so it's just, in my opinion, it felt like I missed out on a lot of drama, of waiting, of war, of building this anticipation of what this book, what the whole meaning of this book was, which was for Paul to grow into his socks. I'm trying my best not to give too much. You know, skimming back through this book, I think I constantly remember another thing that kind of irked me, and that was the fact that I just don't think that the way the characters were connected was written as well as it could be. Again, I'm a major critic. Am I some novelist? Absolutely not. I don't think I could write a book half as good as this at the moment. Hopefully, maybe one day. So, you know, I think it's funny the way I critique these things, you know, so harshly, but you know, it's my opinion. And but the way Frank writes to a love story in this book, the point is it's just not there. I just didn't feel the binding tendons from the bone to the tissue of these characters being you know, for each other. You know, I didn't feel that, and that was a big off-putting miss for me, because, you know, Paul has his love interest, and that's pretty much the only one, actually, and it just wasn't there for the only love interest in the book. There was no story of it. It just happened. And I won't give away the book, I won't give away the ending, but I can see that where this is headed is a lot like Game of Thrones, where, you start with one goal, but it builds and it builds, and these families are all going to be interconnected, and they're all going to go for the same goal. And so I'm very excited to dive into the second book and the third book, and I want to read it before Dune with Timothy Chalamet, whatever. That film comes out. I'm very excited to see how they portray this book. And in my opinion, I think that you could make this a better film. All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching this review. And like I said before, I very much appreciate those of you who are engaging in this content with me. If you could leave a comment down below if you agreed with my review. If you didn't agree, I want to know. I want to know what your thoughts were. And I think that's what makes books so incredible, is we all get something different out of it. So do me a favor, leave a review down below of your own, and let's talk about it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, and give me a thumbs up if you want, or a thumbs down, however you feel. Thumbs up, please.